Hello and welcome to Get In, We're Going Healing. I hope you've enjoyed your journey so far and you've enjoyed the show up till this point. Today we have a lovely treat. Today our topic is going to be chakras, Reiki, and all things energy points. And I have a lovely guest with me today. I have Tracey Rogers with me today. Tracey is a member of the spiritual community here in Windsor. She does a lot of Reiki. She's a Reiki Master. She knows a lot about chakras and energy centers. She owns a wonderful metaphysical shop here in the city called White Feather Holistic. And she is one of the people that I enjoy spending time with most. And I am going to bring her on. So everyone, please welcome Tracey. Hi, Tracey.
Hi. Hi,
So,
thanks for having me on, Tovah. It's nice to be with you today.
thank you for joining me. I really enjoy spending time with you. As I said, I really do. Tracey also runs drum circles in the city. Went back pre-pandemic. She used to run a lot of drum circles, which were pretty big hits in the city.
Yeah, I miss drum circles. I miss gatherings of all kinds right now, to be really honest. One of the first things I'm going to do when we have no restrictions is I'm going to have a massive drum circle.
I look forward to it very much. Drumming alone is not the same thing as drumming in a big, massive group.
Yeah, no, actually, we're here talking about energy and stuff today. Drumming is a form of raising your own energy, and it can help with clearing the chakras and clearing out your energy field and all that stuff. So drumming can be used in conjunction with all the stuff that we're going to be talking about today.
Must be one of the reasons I love it so much.
Yeah.
So why don't we start with just some basic stuff. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself further than I've done, you can do that. And then maybe we'll start with a bit of like a 101 for those who have never heard of chakras.
Okay. My name's Tracey. I'm the owner at White Feather Holistic Arts on Ottawa Street. I've been doing Reiki since I started my Reiki journey in 2008. 2008, I was living down in Arizona at the time. And a friend of mine asked me if I wanted a Reiki session, and I didn't even know what Reiki was. And I said, what's Reiki? And he tried to explain it, and I still didn't have any idea. And I said, sure, let's do it. And his name was Leon, and he gave me a Reiki session. And he didn't really explain too much beforehand or anything, didn't tell me what to expect or anything like that. And I had an incredible experience during my very first Reiki session with him. What happened was I felt very calm and relaxed, and everything felt really good. And when his hands got over what I now know is my sacral chakra, over my belly, I just it felt like an energy eruption in my body. Like it felt like something was breaking through for the first time in years. I couldn't explain. I didn't know what chakras were at the time. I had no idea that that it was my sacral chakra. I know that in retrospect now. But I had this, like, it was a huge release, and I ended up sobbing for like 30 minutes, and he hadn't said a word. He hadn't, like, I had no reason to explain what had happened, but it was like this breaking free of energy that had been trapped there for years. And after that experience of having my first Reiki session with Leon, I knew that it was something I was interested in. I had a few sessions with him after that. And then when Anela, who was my teacher, offered to do Reiki classes down in Arizona there where I was, I was like, yes, I'd like to try that out. So that was back in 2008. So that's initially how I got into Reiki. I didn't get into it with the ideas of business or anything like that. I got into it because I wanted to learn more about it, because I'd had such a profound experience with it myself. And it's continued to be profound from that very first moment and from those very first classes with Anela. So
it's amazing.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I got into it. And then, 4 years later, I opened up White Feather Holistic Arts. I had been doing a lot of practice Reiki with people for the 1.5 to 2 years before I opened the doors. Yeah, and I teach, so I teach tons of Reiki. I do lots of Reiki. It's a huge part of my life, and it's working with the energy centers. It's working with the chakras and everything. It works on a lot of different levels. It's a form of meditation. It's a form of relaxation therapy. It's a form of energy clearing. It's doing a lot of things all at once, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some of those I didn't even know.
Yeah. It's the body. the body and the mind and the spirit, to heal, they need to be in a non-agitated state. So we need to be in a state of relaxation. Cells do not regenerate and do not fix themselves, and the body doesn't heal itself. The spirit doesn't heal itself when it's agitated or stressed or anxious. So a big part of what's going on with Reiki is getting a person into a highly relaxed state. And then we're clearing the energy out when the body is relaxed and the body is open to healing and open to regeneration and all of those wonderful things, whether it's physical, mental, or spiritual healing.
I am all about the full body holistic kind of healing, all the different elements, not just the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, the spiritual body, the whole shebang.
They're all tied together and they're all connected. When one isn't well, the others aren't well as well. You know, when we see things manifest in the physical body, it's because of something going on in the emotional or psychological body or the spiritual body. So like things from what's going on with me emotionally and what's hurting me emotionally can manifest physically in my body if it continues on for a long enough time. I've worked with, there's a book by Louise Hay called You Can Heal Your Life. In the back of her book, she has a list of all the physical ailments and what the emotional attachment, like what the emotional thing is behind it. And I've used it in my own practice for years now, for over a decade, and I have yet to find the exception to the rule when there was not a connection between the physical and the emotional realm and what was going on.
Wow. I'm going to make a note to read that one. That one definitely sounds like my kind of reading material.
Yeah, so that's things like, let's say your hips hurt because you were hit by a Mack truck, right? Like obviously the 3D world reason is because you got hit by a Mack truck and that's why your hip hurts. But this would suggest that the reason we got hit by a Mack truck, the reason why that happened in our 3D reality here is because there's been something that we've been wanting to move forward on that we have not been moving forward, and we just keep standing still and we're not moving forward. So that's an example of what I'm talking about there.
That is really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there's different connections with every part of the body for that.
So let's go a little bit more into what the actual chakras are, because you mentioned the sacral chakra in that. So let's kind of, for those that are new to this idea, let's kind of introduce what the chakras are.
All right, sure, I can do that. So the chakras, this goes into Eastern medicine. So it really, everything that we're talking about here ultimately goes to Eastern medicine, both Reiki and the chakras and all of this. The chakras, if you were to dissect a body and do a post-mortem, you would not find a chakra. It's an energy center in the body. Every one of them is associated with a major gland in the body. So whether that be like lung, heart, pineal gland, all that kind of stuff, they're associated with major glands in our body, each one of the chakras. There's 7 main chakras. There's tons of other little chakras, and some people will talk about thousands of chakras and whatnot, but there's 7 main chakras, and then there's 2 others that get added on a lot lately. So first of all, like a chakra, some people say, you know, oh, they spin to the right if you're a woman and they spin to the left if you're a man, or vice versa. And people have different reasonings about which direction they spin in. And my question to that would be, well, are you laying on your stomach or are you laying on your back? Or which part of your body are you looking at when it's spinning to the right or the left? My body isn't 2-dimensional. I don't see my chakras as spinning in to the right or to the left. Picture it more like, you know, that 3D atom picture that you see where you've got electron and an atom and you've got these things all spinning around like this. Mm-hmm. That's how I picture the chakra spinning, is with this 3D, like that electron atom thing with the atom spinning around. That's how I picture it. So it's not going in a particular, but it's spinning, and it's a 3D spin. And they're in major parts of the body. So I'll start at the root. The root goes from the tailbone down. So starting at our tailbone right down to our feet is the root chakra, and it's associated with the color red. It's associated with safety, security, sustenance, having the things that we need. It's our most basic survival needs is what's at the root chakra. If you were looking at Maslow's triangle of needs, you're looking at the very bottom of that triangle. So our security and the things that we need, finances and stuff, sit in the root as well. So that's the root chakra. When we move up from there, the belly, just below the belly button, right in there, this is our sacral chakra. This is associated with creativity, sexuality, and emotions. That's our sacral chakra. Now, I said that I had a huge breakthrough when I first got Reiki for the very first time. And what was going on there is I had addiction issues for years because of trauma from when I was younger. And how I always dealt with my emotions was I either smoked them down, or I got high and got them down, or I drank them down. And that where that pushes to is right into the sacral chakra. So all of our emotional trauma that's never been dealt with will sit in the sacral chakra. And that's why I had this massive breaking free when the energy from the Reiki actually went through my chakra system and it got to the sacral chakra. There was this incredible eruption of all of that trauma that had been held there for years. And he didn't say anything to me about that. I wasn't thinking about that when it happened, but I actually physically felt it break free in my body. So I can look back on that experience and know what was happening now. But at the time I had no idea what I experienced. I just knew it was amazing. Like I knew it was a good thing. So that's our sacral. And right above there, our solar plexus. I'll just show you, stand up a little bit here. Right here above our belly button, below our breasts, that's our solar plexus. The solar plexus is associated with the color yellow. That's our self-confidence. It's trusting our own intuition. Our intuition is actually seated there in our solar plexus. So when someone says, oh, I just knew in my gut that that wasn't going to be a good thing, that's what we mean. Right in our gut, it's our solar plexus is actually where we knew. So self-confidence, our personal power sits there. This is the chakra of confidence, power, but also of knowing. All sits there. When we move up, we go to the heart chakra. So right over our heart here, it's associated with the color green. You will also see it very often associated with the color pink, but on most chakra banners and stuff, you'll see the color green for the heart chakra. The heart chakra I like to move people away from the idea that thinking it's about projecting your love outwards onto other people and sending love out to the whole universe and all of that. The heart chakra and love starts with self-compassion,
self-love.
And self-love and self-understanding. So this is ultimately that can grow into what we give to others. But until we understand the self-compassion piece and the self-love piece, anything that we give out is actually a call for love. It's not giving love, it's asking for love. So I like to root people in the heart chakra with self-compassion and self-love as opposed to something that we send outwards. When we move up from there, we go to the throat chakra. Myself, I consider the throat chakra to consist of right up the arms, right across the shoulders here, across here, and it actually includes the nose and the mouth here. So this is all throat chakra. Why do I say the hands? Because a lot of people communicate with their hands. They, get going, and we talk a lot with our hands. So I've seen these associated with different chakras by different people, but myself, I've always associated them with the throat chakra. This is our communication center, our self-expression center. There's rhythm and timing and knowing. There's actually knowledge in the throat chakra. So this is one of my favorite chakras to talk about as well as the throat chakra. I'll speak about it for just a moment now. Things that can really throw the throat chakra off is when you have something to express that you're not expressing, not speaking your truth, or needing to speak your truth so much that you're just always constantly wanting to argue with people to prove your point. Whereas someone who's comfortable with their throat chakra, I can say it once and I don't care. I don't need anyone to validate it back for me. I can say it once and then I don't need to argue. I don't need you to agree with me for me to know that what I said was correct. So there's all that kind of energy. There's also the energy of saying yes when we mean no, like, say you've got your only weekend off coming up this weekend that you've had in months. Someone, your best friend says, can you help me move this weekend? And you say yes. And like inside you're screaming to say, no, no.
You said yes when you meant no.
Yes, you said yes when you meant no. So that is one of the major things. Is I call them words of obligation. So speaking words of obligation can throw the throat chakra off as well. When we move up from there, we go to the third eye. Now, people always point right here in between their eyes, but picture it also it's not sitting at the front of your forehead. Your third eye is actually associated with your pineal gland, which is in the middle of your head. So it's in the center of these points. It's not sitting on your forehead. The pineal gland, everyone likes to always think that all intuition is seated here. As I said earlier, intuition is actually seated in the solar plexus. So our knowing is coming up from the solar plexus and it's coming into here. where all of the knowledge that we've ever learned, so every YouTube video I ever watched, every book I ever read, every teacher I ever listened to, all of that information is in here. And it's also getting affected by divine enlightenment from above. And this is where we come up with the answer. So my intuition combined with my knowledge, combined with divine intervention from the crown, from above, that's what happens in the third eye. So there's a knowing. It's associated with knowing and connection and intellect and all of those kinds of things in the third eye. The crown chakra, the crown chakra is really actually a little bit above the head, but we're looking at the top of the head here, just above the head. The crown chakra is our divine chakra. It's known as the master chakra. This is where we recognize our own divinity, or at least our own immortality. We recognize divine things. We recognize the bigger picture, higher consciousness, all of those things. Well, by the time we get up to the crown, we have moved out of the self and we have moved into the collective whole that really is life and all things in the universe. So, and that's the crown chakra. So at the root, we started with the most physical, basic things that are associated with me. And it's fairly physical, moving up to the body until we get into the emotions, and then we get into the heart, which is we're still in me. And then we start to move into things that are outside of the self as we move up higher in the chakras.
I've always found it interesting that the color of the crown chakra is white.
Yes.
It's always I've enjoyed that, just knowing that white is the color of the light spectrum until it hits a prism, and then it separates into all your other colors. It's all of the everything.
Yeah, and that really represents what's going on in the crown, actually, is it is all and it is everything. Imagine the oneness of our existence, and that's what the crown chakra is. Actually, I don't know if I don't think I hit all of the colors, so I should do that really quick. Root is red, and then we go to orange with the sacral, and then we go to yellow with the solar plexus, and then we go to green with the heart, blue with the throat, purple or violet with the third eye, and then white for the crown. Yeah. And so all of these chakras in the body, so these are at very specific spots in the body that they're associated with. And imagine that energy moves up your body like through and around, like this. Imagine that at each one of those points, and the energy turns and weaves like a snake going up that chakra system. And then it hits the top and it comes back down like a snake going around each one of those spinning chakra wheels. Okay, so they're like a bumper that the energy goes around as it gets to. So when one chakra is blocked, that stops this movement from properly happening for the rest of the chakra system. So it's important to keep all of our chakras open and active, because one chakra being off will ultimately affect all of our chakras, because the energy is not flowing properly through our system then.
So for a question for those who are listening, I already know a little bit about this stuff, but for those who are listening, so how would you know what chakra, if you had a chakra blocked, how would you know that you have a chakra blocked?
Well, the easiest way is usually if we have something that has manifested into the physical. So when I'm getting, if I keep having things happen with my throat or with my teeth or whatever, I know there's something going on with my throat chakra. If I keep having something going on with my lungs or bronchitis or something like that, or pneumonia, whatever, and I keep having something persist here, I know that I've got a chakra block here. If my liver is causing a problem, I know I've got a problem with my solar plexus. So we can have physical ailments with the body, and we can feel pain in certain parts of the body, and pain in certain part of the bodies is a great indicator that there's a blocked chakra. Beyond that, it gets more into what's emotionally going on with us at the time. So sometimes there might be a little bit more investigation required to figure out which one of our chakras is blocked. When I'm doing a Reiki session with someone, I just hold a pendulum over top of their body, and depending on how it spins, I can tell them which chakras are blocked or which ones aren't open very far, which ones we've got a problem with or are overactive and whatever. So there's different ways that practitioners, energy practitioners, different things that we can do to tell people which chakras are blocked. Sometimes you can just feel it from a person, like in a conversation, you can tell that a certain chakra is blocked. For the individual, it's self-awareness. It's always self-awareness for the individual.
Isn't it always?
So self-awareness is literally the key to life, and it's the key to happiness. The more self-aware we become, the more authentic we become, the more that we're able to be true to ourselves and all of that stuff. So the more self-aware I became, the more my chakras were opened up and active because I was being true to myself. When we are not being true to ourselves, that's what shuts down chakras.
I felt that.
Yeah. It's all about being true to ourselves. And being true and authentic to me doesn't mean that everyone's going to like what's authentic. It has nothing to do with everybody else. It's totally about me and what feels good for me. You know, know thyself and to thine own self be true. And what that is may conflict with what other people think you should be. But at the end of the day, I'm the person who's here when I'm born, and I'm the person who's here when I die. There is no one else there at either of those places. You come in alone and you leave alone. So you better make sure you're okay with yourself.
Right. So the self-awareness as someone who's, as for the individual, let's say for a newbie, someone who's new at meditating, new at maybe can do some visualization and guiding, how would they work through the chakras?
There's intuitive ways to do it, and then there's textbook ways to do it. I mean, the way I went through the whole thing was very intuitive and just kind of following along. I asked the universe for healing, and the universe just plotted out these path of things for me to do that did exactly that. For myself, one of the first things that happened, I got a connection with the divine. I was an atheist actually for most of my life. And then I had a life-changing experience. And that opened me up to listening to something else and for a path being put in front of me. So once I had that connection with the divine, you know, with something larger than myself, I was able to follow the synchronicities, so to speak. And synchronicities were happening all over the place. So I had no idea what to do. And like, I'd just be like, all right, show me what to do. And I do whatever the universe asked me to do next, you know. And one of the very first things it asked me to do was to start drawing and coloring and stuff. And at the time, I thought it was because the universe was going to make me a famous artist. So I worked really, really hard at it so that I would be a famous artist, and making that money would fix my life. Because I was at a really bad place at that point in my life. I had absolutely nothing but the shirt on my back. So I was like, this is going to fix everything. And so I started drawing and stuff at that time. Little did I realize what was happening was the creativity chakra, the sacral chakra, will be activated and best healed by anything that falls in the creative realm. So writing and drawing and coloring and gardening and creative cooking and making jewelry and beading and whatever else creative things you can think of, that opened up my sacral chakra, and that allowed for the healing to start gently happening on all of the emotional trauma that I had pushed down with drugs and alcohol for years. Because at the same time, I'm getting clean and sober, and for the first time, and all of this stuff is starting to crop up. But the gentlest way, honestly, of dealing with that stuff was by doing creative projects. So my art started to come out in poetry, and it started to come out in writing, like my healing came out in poetry, and it came out in writing and journaling and coloring and drawing and all that stuff. So, you know, I was doing it for one reason, the universe had me doing it for another. And I realize now how wonderful it was that the universe had me doing all of those things. It had me writing too, because it inspired me that I was going to write a book one day, and that was the most important thing. And so I was journaling and writing all the time because I thought I was about to write the next great Canadian masterpiece. You know, and really what was happening was energetically I was healing myself, because all that stuff that I was writing out was all the stuff that had been hurting me and had wounded me for years. And I was acting like my own psychologist, because often what all a psychologist or counselor does is just listen to you, and you work out the problem yourself by talking about it. So I was writing about it and working out the problems myself.
Wow.
So mine was a very organic journey that started there. And my self-confidence, you know, like so let's go up to the next chakra there, the solar plexus, which is my self-confidence and self-trust. So I had to actually start doing things that I was afraid of doing, or going outside of my comfort zone. And every time I stepped outside of my comfort zone, my confidence would build, because I didn't get crushed when I stepped outside of my comfort zone. It didn't always turn out the way I wanted it to, but I was fine. And also by like coloring and drawing and writing and all this stuff, people were telling me that they liked my writing and that they liked my drawing and all that stuff. And it made me feel good. And it built my confidence up. So my confidence started building. So it happened naturally and organically. But when we're wanting to work on the solar plexus, start doing some things that are a little bit out of your own comfort zone, and also start to follow your own intuition. So when your intuition is saying, you know, you should be doing this right now, even if it doesn't make a lick of sense, do it. Everything that I did for years before I opened my business did not make a lick of sense at all. I had no idea why the universe had me doing this, that, and the next thing. I was all over the place with all the things I was doing. It was like, how does this all come together? The universe did bring it all together, but it was much later. There was a method to all of the madness of that. So, but my intuition said, do this. You're supposed to do this. And so I would do it. You know, even coming to Windsor before I opened the business. Why Windsor? You know, like I was dating someone in Windsor, and one day I was just like, you know what, I'm moving to Windsor. I didn't move in with them. I came here, got my own apartment. Like Windsor of all places. I hate to say it, before I moved here, I didn't like Windsor. Like it was not the place I wanted to live. To me, it was an industrial factory town, and I lived in a very clean, green city, and Windsor didn't look like that to me. And I got here and I absolutely loved Windsor, and like it's got such a vibe that's very unique, and the people here are absolutely awesome. Like very, I don't know, it's got a whole different vibe than where I'm originally from. And it's people helping people and opening the door for other people and things like that. And I appreciate that like big time.
I like to say that Windsor's a big city that feels like a small town.
Yeah, it is like that, very much so. You know, so like I had no idea why I was moving to Windsor, really. I didn't think the person I was dating was like going to be the one or anything. So it's not like I was moving here for that, but it was just like move to Windsor. And it's like, okay, so I followed my intuition. I moved. I remember my dad saying to me, he's like, why are you moving late? And I did it in such a rush too. And he's like, well, what if you're making a mistake? And I said, well, then I'll move back. Like, but that's the spot I had gotten to in my life. Well, I was okay with making a mistake by that point. Really, the worst case scenario was I moved back. The best case scenario was it turned out to be a good thing. And as it turns out, it's like the best thing that ever happened to me. It was an incredibly awesome choice. So that builds the solar plexus up, like following your own gut intuition, regardless of what everyone's saying around you. You know, when I opened my business, I did not listen to a single piece of advice from other people because everyone told me I was crazy and that my business was going to fail. My own family and the people who love me the most did not see this as being a success. You know, at all. And so I went against what everyone was advising me to do. I did it my way. And it's, you know, again, the best thing that ever happened to me. So
right.
And I was following my own gut. So I urge people when working on the solar plexus to start listening to your intuition and follow it, even if it goes against what everyone else is saying. The heart chakra. This is all about learning how to love yourself. So I'm a big fan of Louise Hay and saying affirmations. You know, my earliest steps with my heart chakra was I lived in a trailer down in Arizona, like a little trailer. Anyways, it was covered. The whole thing was covered in yellow Post-it notes that said, I am beautiful, I'm creative, I'm smart, I'm worthy of happiness, I'm worthy of a job I love, all this kind of stuff, all these things, I am statements that were powerful that went against every lie that I'd ever told myself, that I'm no good, that I'm not worth anything, that I'll never amount to anything, that I'm a bad person, all this stuff. That whole program needed to get undone. So that's where I started with mine. And I think the very first affirmation was God loves me. And that's what I used to call the universe. And I'll still use those words interchangeably. It doesn't fit in with any Bible or particular religion or anything like that, but that was my own journey with it. And anyways, that was one of my first powerful statements, because I could believe that one. I couldn't believe that I loved me yet, but I could believe that this thing that was greater than myself did, because I was starting to see it do really nice things for me in my life. And I was starting to see little miracles and stuff. And I didn't understand why it loved me, but I could tell that it loved me. So I felt loved by the universe and by God. So that was one of the first affirmations. And eventually I was able to really move that to, you know, I love me and I'm worthy of love. I remember I had read in a book to stand naked in front of a mirror and look yourself in the eyes and say, I love me. And I'll tell you, it took me years to be able to do that without crying and bawling my eyes out every time I did it, because I didn't believe it. I didn't feel it. And I felt, I don't know, but it would just make me sob. And now like I can look at myself like butt naked in the mirror and say, I love me. And I'm totally good with that. So there's lots of different practices, but start making decisions, to work on the heart chakra, start making decisions that affirm the idea that you're worthy of a happy, good life, and that's when I make big decisions now, I stop and I ask myself, is this a self-sabotaging decision or is this a decision that says I love me? Because self-sabotaging decisions will happen subconsciously without me even thinking about them. Like it is my go-to place is self-sabotage. So I will stop and ask myself, is this a self-love decision or is this a self-sabotage decision? And I consciously do that when making any big decisions anymore, to make sure that I'm on the right track. So things like that are stuff we can do with the heart. With the throat, we can sing. We can sing to music in the car. We can sing in the house. We can sing with our friends. We can sing by ourselves. Lots of things that we can do to help open up the throat chakra. A lot of it does involve vocalizing, but it can also involve writing. So writing and journaling actually opens up the throat chakra as well. For people who naturally move to those words of obligation and are want to help everyone, want to help everybody. Gotta help everybody.
Been there.
Yeah, I've been there too. And I like to give them what I call the no project. The no project is where for like the next 30 days, you're going to say no to every single extra thing that you get asked to do, no matter what it is. You're going to say no, and you're not going to give a reason or excuse why. That is the hardest thing to do at first. So,
yeah,
hey,
no excuses, no reasons, just to say flat out no without because I have to, or I have this, or I can't, just to say no.
Yep. It's very hard to do at first. And for like people will feel guilty at first, especially it's family and friends that are asking. They feel guilty, they feel horrible. And you keep practicing it and you keep doing it. And it's like, it goes from being horrible to being like, no. No, 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 no. Spot where it's really awesome and it feels really good. And it's difficult to do. And I highly urge people who speak words of obligation a lot to take on the no project. 30 days, say no to everything and don't give a reason or excuse why. No. Nope. Third eye. Third eye is all meditation. All of the chakras we can help with meditation. The best thing that we can do for ourselves really on our journey is anything that's meditative or relaxing. But for the third eye, the more that we can sit in the silence and not think, the better. People struggle a lot when starting with meditation because they're like, oh, I'm not doing it right because I keep thinking. And it's like, oh, you're becoming aware of the fact that you're thinking? And they say, well, yeah. Well, then it's working because we have 60,000 random thoughts a day on average, and we're aware of none of them. So when we start to meditate, what will happen is we start to become aware of when we're thinking. When we're thinking is when all that negative self-talk starts. It's when all the self-doubt comes in, all the fear comes in, all that stuff is in those 60,000 random thoughts. But if we've been practicing meditation and stuff, we start to become aware of our own thoughts. If you are becoming aware of the fact that you're thinking during meditation, congratulations, you are winning. It doesn't matter whether it took you 5 seconds, 5 minutes, or 5 hours to realize that you were thinking. The fact that you're becoming aware of your thinking is fantastic. And that's all anyone's trying to do. The best guru in the world can't meditate without something slipping in there. So the thoughts come in, and when we notice that we're thinking, we let them go and we release them. Pay attention to don't like when I say let it go and release, don't throw it so far away that you don't know what it is that keeps coming into your thoughts when you're meditating. If it's always work that keeps coming in, or if it's always your child that keeps coming in, or it's always worrying about your parents, or always whatever, pay attention if it's the same repeating thoughts that keep coming in during meditation, because that's something that wants your attention and your focus somewhere in a different way. It's eating up a lot of your mind time if during meditation, that's the same thing that keeps coming in over and over and over again. We want to make a shift there. Crown chakra, just getting together with God, and root chakra, feeling safe and secure. Affirmations, again, are great for the root chakra. So I'm safe, I'm financially well. When talking about finances and stuff, always use the positive of what you're looking for as opposed to speaking the negative words. So let me give you an example. I'm debt free. No, that's not what we want to say, because we're speaking the word debt. I don't want debt. So why on earth would I be attracting debt into my life by speaking it out loud? So I'm financially free. I have financial freedom. And I actually, when I was working on becoming debt free myself, financially free, I kept saying debt free in my affirmations and stuff. And I was so close, but it kept persisting, and I couldn't get over that final hump. And this went on where I was so close and something would happen and so close. And then finally I caught myself the one day saying debt free. And it's like, oh, I am financially free. And literally within like 2 weeks of me starting to say financially free instead, the whole thing cleared up. And it was all done. So yeah, so we don't, it's like when people talk constantly about quitting smoking, how about choosing health? As opposed to saying quitting smoking, I'm choosing my health, or finding a different way of saying that, because we don't want to keep pulling that energy into our space. So yeah,
I find I don't like that word diet. Okay, I've been eating healthier, and people say, "Oh, are you on a diet?" No, I don't like the word diet. I'm not on a diet. What I'm doing is making the choice to put healthier food into my body. I'm not dieting. I'm not limiting what I'm having. I'm not saying I can only have this and not this. I'm saying I love my body enough to put healthy food into it. And that's it. It's not a negative. It's a positive. I'm doing better for my body, and that's all.
Yeah, I'm changing my eating habits, and I'm choosing healthier things. Yeah. So again, so back to the root there. So that's a great example, and that would fall in the root. That's root in that sacral, actually, to talk about something like reducing weight or things like that, changing eating habits and all that kind of stuff. That's in your sacral. There's some stuff with root involved there as well, though. I'm just trying to think of other things. It's making sure, like creating a safe space for yourself is important with the root as well. So making sure that you feel safe at work, making sure that you feel safe at home, and putting whatever things in place you need to feel safe. Being okay with having boundaries with other people, learning how to put up boundaries and stuff. This all helps the root chakra as well, so that we actually feel safe. Sometimes we allow people too much into our space where we actually feel unsafe or whatever, and we don't have to do that. It's okay for us to put up boundaries and stuff with people. So that's kind of some of the stuff that we can do to help, with day-to-day choices. People, I mean, there's tons of meditations. I have meditations that I do for the chakras, and we can put crystals all over our body. I sell crystals. I'm totally into crystals and all that stuff. But ultimately, all of that stuff, my Reiki, doing Reiki with you and covering you in crystals and doing meditations and all that stuff, that can open up the chakra system. But what shuts it right back down again is if we're continuing to choose unhealthy habits and emotional things in our life. So if we continue to choose things that don't say I love me, our chakra system will continually need work. If I do the things in my personal life to open up my chakras, like make changes in how I speak to myself, how I speak to others, how I greet life, how I go about my business day to day, whether I allow my emotions to release and whether I deal with all of them and allow myself to be authentically me and all of that stuff, that's what will keep your chakras open all the time. And then it's still nice to play with the crystals and do the meditations and all that stuff, but we're in a pretty good spot if we're actually making the changes in our personal life.
And that would be what this channel is all about.
Yeah. And I have Reiki clients come into me and they say, like, how often do I need to come in and do this? Like, every time you come in and see me, I'll be able to open your chakras up. And depending on what you do when you leave here, they're either going to stay open or they're going to close, depending on what choices you're making. And so in that hour that I'm with them, I actually work with affirmations and stuff in that time period so that they have some tools so that when they leave, they can actually be practicing this stuff on their own. Because the reality is I actually don't want to see them every week or every other week. I would rather that they get everything like totally sunshine in their lives and open up their chakras all on their own. Yeah.
Right. I used to say that to my clients all the time for massage. I don't want to see you all the time. I like you. I like seeing you, but I don't want to see you every single week. I want you to take the advice I've given you to work on yourself at home and then just see you once in a while for maintenance, just to check in on you. I don't really want to see you all the time.
Yeah.
Same idea. Go home, do the stuff at home, internalize this stuff and do the change for yourself.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. It was honestly on my own journey. Reiki was the biggest thing for doing Reiki with other people, because that's who I was doing it. I wasn't doing self Reiki most of the time. I was doing it on others. But that process made me aware of myself, because for those 45 minutes that I'm doing Reiki, I'm in a meditative healing state with that person. And I'm totally 100% focused on them and what I'm doing. And that's all meditation is being 100% present in the present moment. So I am 100% present, and that space and working with others and then seeing myself mirrored in others and all of that stuff is everything that I needed to work on healing myself. I saw sitting in the chair across from me myself, not while I was talking to them, but afterwards when I would reflect on it, it'd be like, holy smokes, that's like exactly. And the universe always sent people in with the exact mirror of like what was going on. And so that's the process that helped me to come to a place where like I feel really good in my own skin. I'm a really happy person. And when I started on the Reiki journey and on the healing journey, like back in Arizona, when I first started working on getting clean and sober, not succeeding at the time 100%, but started working on it. Like I was a train wreck. I had severe PTSD. I had just come out of a really bad temporary psychosis that lasted way longer than it should have. I had severe depression for well over a decade. The self-loathing was massive. Like I was not mentally well. I was not mentally well at all. And I was in a really bad place and I was very scared. I was terrified of everything. And that's the place that I started from. So me to get to a spot where like I'm riding motorcycles and climbing mountains and going scuba diving and like loving life and not experiencing depression or PTSD or any of that stuff at all anymore, it's huge. It's huge. And it, like what it says to me is if I can do it getting from where I was, like anybody can do it. It takes some work though, you know, like if someone had given me the great big book of everything that I'd have to do, I never would have done it. But the universe just gave me one little piece of paper at a time and said, here, try this. Here, try this. And I would take the little piece of paper. I'd be like, okay, that's the next thing I'm going to do. And I had no idea why I was doing it, but that's, and you know what? I was worth it. So, yeah.
Yeah. We talked about that last week in our episode on self-care, that you are worth it. You are worth taking care of yourself. Loving yourself enough to make the changes that you need to be your best, healthiest version. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it takes 5 days or 5 lifetimes. You just keep doing it and you just keep working on it. You know, according to some past life regression stuff I've done, I've apparently been working on this for a great many lifetimes.
Well, I mean, some of us, it is said that those of us who come to the path of healing got here through many, 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 many times of making these mistakes. And then because we found the path, we lead others down the path too.
Yeah. And that's all it is. Because the reality is we don't heal other people. We guide people down the path of healing. We offer a tour of it. We offer a tour guide down the path. I like to say that I work with healing energies as opposed, because you know what, unless you decide that you're going to heal, I can't do anything for you or with you. It's totally a personal decision to do healing. So I always, at early on in my own journey, I looked at these other people like my Reiki teacher, Vanilla, as like she was healing me. And I realized now that she was guiding me to heal myself. I didn't see that and recognize that at first. I didn't feel powerful. That was not in my solar plexus yet to believe that I could actually heal myself. But that's all we're doing is helping others to heal themselves.
Right. Yeah. So what I want to ask now is if for those, once all these restrictions are lifted, as we mentioned in last week's episode, we are in lockdown in Ontario. Once all these restrictions are lifted, how do people get a hold of you if they're interested in getting a healing session with you?
White Feather Holistic Arts. We've got a Facebook page. We're on Instagram, White Feather Holistic. They can call us on the phone, 519-996-6409. They can email me, info@whitefeatherarts.com. All you have to do is Google White Feather Holistic in Windsor, and you'll come up with my business, and it'll give you links to everything. So just get in touch with me. I have no idea what our schedule looks like for all of that stuff. I haven't been able to teach Reiki now for a year. Twice I've started doing Reiki sessions again and then immediately been shut down again. So I'm like, I was hesitant to start this last time, and I'm like, no, I'd really like to do this. And I did it like for a couple of weeks, and then the government shut it down again. So it's like, oh, well, I worked on other projects during it. So
right. Wasn't meant to be, just not yet.
I have a book coming out very shortly, and so that's where I've been focusing my attention right now. I'm not exactly sure how to launch it. I'm going to have a copy of it in my hands very soon, though. So it talks all about this journey, actually.
I am very excited. Once you have that book out, I want to have you back again, and we'll talk about the book.
Awesome.
I'm excited to read it. Your story is an amazing story, and I want to know more about it. Well, I thank you so much for being here this week. This was very informative, even for myself. And I'm no stranger to chakras and Reiki, and you've given me information that I didn't even know.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you for having me on here, Tovah. It's great to see you. I've been drumming with you for a great many years. It goes back to very early. It goes back to before my sobriety, actually.
Really?
So
wow.
That's when I first met you, actually. Yeah, it was before I moved to Windsor and stuff. So I was still living in London, actually, when I first met you at a festival.
I do enjoy the festivals. I do miss them greatly. I miss them.
It has been a pleasure to be here with you today and to talk to you about all of this stuff. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Bye, everyone.
So I found that talk very informative. I hope that you did too. And so just to close out today, I'm going to do the same thing that I've been doing each week. I'm going to be pulling an I Am Everything card from I Am & Co. I Am Media, because I find these are really helpful. So I'm going to give them a shuffle. There's a few that came out. We're going to go with the first one that fell. So today's card is number 21. I am happy. I am happy. So this says, I take control of my happiness. When my happiness depends on others' actions, I am at the mercy of things I cannot control. Instead, I choose to cultivate consistent happiness by focusing on the things I love about myself. I am happy. That's a great message. I am happy. So I hope today you have enjoyed our talk. I do have a new Patreon, just a few little things to share. I do have a new Patreon account. It would be patreon.com/getinhealing. And through Patreon, that is a way to support the channel and to support the costs. There are overhead costs. There are overhead costs in running something like this. So it's just to help support the expenses of running this sort of channel. I mean, it's not expected. I want you to understand it's never expected. It's just, it would be appreciated, always appreciated. You can give a tip if you'd like. You can also give a membership to Patreon if you are interested. Each month, what will be happening if you are a member of Patreon, for each tier, you will be getting early access to the episodes, and you will also be getting exclusive content available for some of the tiers. Exclusive content, things like guided meditations to help you walk through some of the things we're talking about, information, card pulls. I also do tarot readings as well, and at least I'm experimenting with tarot reading. I've been into tarot for 25 years or so, but I'm just starting to get into the idea of doing readings. So I can also do tarot pulls. I also do tarot card pulls on my Instagram and Facebook. I try to do daily card pulls just to see what the collective card for the day is. And then I give the meaning for that as well, if you're interested. You can also support the channel at buymeacoffee.com/getinhealing. And if you have any questions or want to ask anything, or maybe have an idea for a future topic, you can send me an email at getinweregoinghealing@gmail.com. You can also send me a message on Facebook or on Instagram if you have any ideas and you'd like to share some thoughts or ideas. If you're watching the video feed on YouTube, you can also drop a line in the comments and let me know if there's anything in particular. Tracy, all of Tracy's information will be in the show notes. And I do hope that you got something out of today. I hope that you enjoyed our talk on energy centers and chakras. I hope that you learned something. Maybe you found that there's a bit of an energy blockage in you. And as Tracy said about mindfulness, this is where from our our second episode 2 about the body scan, this is where the body scan may come in handy, is running through the body and scanning, and just in those points that she talked about for the different chakras, if you notice anything unusual as you scan through the body. So thank you for coming to the talk today. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being a part of my audience. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you listening in and listening to the thoughts that I have and the ideas that I have. And just as I share what I know with you and through the information that my guests have and that they can share with you so that you can become your better, most authentic, most real version of yourself. So until next week, love and light, fellow human.